I thought it was just a quiet dinner to celebrate Dad's 70th, but his words stopped my heart. We gathered at La Rosa, a warm restaurant with white linen and flickering candles, just the core group, as Mom called it, family, no fuss, no fanfare. I wore a navy dress bought on clearance, feeling steady as Nate adjusted my collar in the car. "You look grounded," he whispered, his voice my anchor. That word steady meant more than perfection. It was my strength earned through years of quiet resilience. The evening unfolded gently, appetizers, soft laughter, and old college stories. My daughter Lila, 10 and glowing, sketched wildflowers on her napkin, while Nate cut her grilled chicken into careful bites. Her presence warmed the room, made it feel whole. Then came dessert. Dad stood, wineglass raised, his smile too sharp, his voice carrying a practiced weight. "I want to acknowledge something beautiful," he said, turning to my older sister Lauren. "Planning a wedding is tough, and we're thrilled to see you building something special." Lauren's face lit up, her eyes bright with pride. Then he looked at me. "And in the spirit of family unity, Megan has generously offered to share her wedding fund to make Lauren's day as perfect as she deserves." Applause broke out. "Genuine. Warm." Aunt Gail murmured, "That's so sweet." Glasses clinked. Mom added, "Megan's always been the thoughtful one." I didn't move. I didn't breathe. My chest tightened as Lauren's grateful gaze met mine, like I'd already agreed to her happiness. But I hadn't. That fund was mine. 7 years of night shifts at the hospital. Skipped meals. Secondhand shoes for Lila. Raising her alone after a courthouse marriage that crumbled before she could walk. That money wasn't a family pool. It was my dream scraped together for a wedding. I chose a day to celebrate my life with Nate. They hadn't asked. They'd declared. In their eyes, I was the quiet one, the one who'd nod and smile, grateful just to be at the table. But this time, I wouldn't stay silent. I'd build something louder than their assumptions. Have you ever had someone decide your story for you? How did you take it back? When my first marriage ended at 28, it wasn't loud or messy, just a quiet kitchen talk that ended with, "You'll be fine." He left with a duffel bag, and I was alone with Lila, not yet 3. That same week, Lauren closed on her downtown condo. My parents arrived with wine and flowers, toasting her success while I packed up my life. No one asked if I needed help moving or childcare. They didn't even check if I was okay. I learned early that Lauren's moments got banners and speeches while mine got nods and silence. When I finished my nursing certification, Mom sent a text, "Proud of you, sweetheart." Meanwhile, Lauren's promotion to regional manager earned a party with balloons and a custom cake. I wondered what it took to earn my own banner, but I kept sweeping quietly, raising Lila, working night shifts, crying in the hospital's utility closet between vitals. No one knew. No one asked. One winter when Lila was 6, she had a stomach bug that kept us up for 2 nights. I called Mom, hoping for support. "Kids build immunity that way," she said, her voice distant. I told Lauren, and she sent a video of her friend's kid playing piano. Their hands only reached out when they were the ones falling. I stopped expecting them to notice me. I took the 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. shift, paid for a sitter, slept on lunch breaks. Lila and I made it through not because of family, but despite them. I was the steady one, the one who didn't complain, who showed up with a dish and a smile even when my heart was heavy. Then I met Nate. He taught woodworking, walked with purpose, and asked questions like he cared. He met Lila before my parents did. When she spilled juice on his jeans, he just smiled and asked if she wanted to build a shelf. He saw me, really saw me. When I told him about my family, how they assumed I'd always be fine, he said, "They see you surviving and think you don't need anything." It was gentle, but it cut deep. He was right. I'd been invisible to them, my struggles tucked away in silence. I was fine in their eyes, independent, quiet, reliable. But being quiet doesn't mean you're not screaming inside. I was used to being overlooked, but this time they'd gone too far. Their assumption about my wedding fund wasn't just a mistake. It was a theft of my voice. Have you ever felt invisible to the ones who should see you most? How did you make yourself heard? The letter arrived 2 days after the dinner. Not an email, not a text. A real envelope, ivory-colored with my full name in cursive, Miss Megan Grant. Inside, a single printed sheet on thick cream paper. No handwriting, no warmth. just black ink margin aligned like a memo from someone trying to sound like family. Given Lauren's upcoming wedding and your own stable situation, your father and I have agreed that reallocating $25,000 from your fund to support her ceremony reflects our shared values. We know you'll understand. After all, family supports family. There was no request, just a decision already made dressed up as unity. I stared at the words, willing them to shift into something softer, a misunderstanding, a question, a chance to reply. But there was nothing to answer. Only a closing line, simple and polished with love, Mom. It hit me harder than the announcement at dinner, because this wasn't heat of the moment. This was planned, written, printed, signed, filed under family expectation as if my savings were a joint account in their version of fairness. I folded the letter in half and placed it on the kitchen counter. Lila came in from school a few minutes later, kicking off her shoes and dropping her backpack with a thud. She looked at me then at the envelope. "Is that from Grandma?" I nodded. "Did she send you wedding stuff?" I hesitated. "Sort of." Lila walked over and rested her head against my arm. "Are you sad?" "Yes." "Did they take your dress money?" I didn't answer. She didn't push. Just stood there with me in silence, the kind that doesn't fill a room but leaves space for you to breathe if you choose. That night, I sat with Nate at the dining table, the letter unfolded between us. He read it twice, then leaned back in his chair. No rant, no plan, just a long, even breath. Then he said, "You're not overreacting." And just like that, something inside me steadied. Not like relief, more like clarity, the kind that doesn't shout, it just stops apologizing. This wasn't about money anymore. It was about how easily they rewrote the story without asking me to turn a page. The following Monday, I walked into the Blue Ridge Federal Branch on Henderson Avenue. It was the kind of place where the pens were still chained to plastic stands and the carpet smelled like pine cleaner and printer toner. A woman in her 60s greeted me at the counter with a nameplate that read, C. Mulroney. Her cardigan matched the artificial flowers on her desk. I handed over my ID and slid the envelope across to her, the letter I'd received. "I need to confirm something," I said. "This account, is it in my name only?" She adjusted her glasses and began typing, fingers moving slowly but with certainty. I watched the reflection of the screen flicker across her lenses. She didn't look up when she spoke. "Yes, ma'am. Custodial account created when you were 19. Ownership transferred to your name when you turned 25. It's been yours since." "Just me." She nodded. "No co-owners, no authorized access, no changes without your signature." I felt my shoulders drop, not in relief exactly, but in something close, something solid. I walked back to the car with the confirmation slip in my coat pocket and a strange sense of calm in my throat. It wasn't triumph. It wasn't even anger anymore. It was proof. Proof that I wasn't imagining it. That they'd tried to take something that wasn't theirs, not just in theory, but in writing. And worse, they expected me to be grateful for the gesture. Back at home, I pulled out the box where I kept important things. Lila's birth certificate, my nursing license, the backup flash drive with all my resumes. I added the letter. Then I added the bank slip. Later that evening, my phone buzzed. A text from my mom. "Real family shares, especially when one sister is building and the other already has a full life." I stared at the screen for a long time. I had a full life. Sure. If full meant sleepless, scraped together, carefully portioned so everyone got fed and nothing ever broke at the same time. But more than anything, I had something they didn't expect the nerve to say no. And now the paperwork to back it up. It was supposed to be a simple dinner, just the four of us and Lauren's fiancé, James. My mother reserved a long table at the Ridgeview Inn, their favorite spot for elegant but not fussy. Linen napkins, fireplaces. The kind of menu where water comes with lemon and bread is called a starter. Nate offered to come. I told him not to. "I need to handle this without backup," I said. He kissed my forehead before I left. "You're not going there alone. You're just arriving solo." That stayed with me. I walked in 5 minutes early. Lauren was already seated sipping wine, her nails perfectly manicured in soft blush pink. Mom adjusted a gold bracelet. Dad nodded like this was just another nice Thursday. "Hi, sweetheart," Mom said. "So glad you could join us." I sat down without smiling. Dinner started civil. Lauren talked about flower arrangements. James bragged about his bonus. Mom praised the restaurant. Dad mentioned golf. I nodded through it, placing each moment in a quiet mental file. Then the waiter cleared the plates and Mom raised her glass. "I just want to say how proud we are of both our girls," she said, "and how beautiful it's been to watch you support one another. Megan, thank you for contributing to Lauren's special day. That kind of generosity shows real character." Lauren placed her hand over mine. "It really means so much." I pulled my hand away. "I didn't agree to give you anything I said." The table froze. "I never offered money. No one asked me. You decided. You announced it. And then you applauded each other." Mom blinked. "Megan, I checked the account. It's mine. Fully. Legally. And you had no right." Lauren's eyes narrowed. "It's not about rights, Meg. It's about support. Family. You already have a life, Nate Lila. I'm just starting over." "You're starting over in white lace with a champagne bar," I replied. I started over with a toddler in a graveyard shift. Dad's voice cut in low and sharp. "You're making a scene." I met his eyes. "No. I'm setting a boundary. You just don't recognize the sound." Mom's face tightened. "You're embarrassing us. In public." "Good," I said quietly. Then she slapped me. It wasn't a dramatic movie slap. It was quick, small, but the sound still cracked like glass. I didn't move. I didn't cry. I didn't reach for my cheek. I just stood. A nearby table turned. James shifted in his seat. Lauren looked down. I took a breath and turned to the waiter. "Could you please bring me the check for my portion?" He hesitated, then nodded and walked away. I turned back to my parents. "I'll be filing charges." Mom's mouth opened, then shut. Dad looked away. I picked up my coat. "I won't be spoken for. Not anymore." And then I walked out. Not fast, not flinching, just forward. Have you ever been hurt by family in front of others? I learned to stand taller from it. The courthouse in Asheville wasn't grand. Beige walls, plastic chairs, a metal detector that beeped no matter what you did. It didn't feel like the place where anything life-changing happened, and maybe that was the point. I sat in the hallway with Natalie Quinn, my attorney. She was sharp without being cold-dressed in navy, like the answer to a question you weren't sure you were allowed to ask. Nate sat beside me. He didn't try to fill the silence, just held my hand steady and warm like always. I hadn't told Lila anything more than Mom has a meeting today. She didn't need to carry this. When they called my name, I stood without adjusting my skirt, without checking my hair. I didn't need armor, just air. Inside the courtroom was half empty. 2 reporters in the back, a bailiff who looked barely old enough to shave. My mother sat at the defendant's table in a pale lavender suit, her hair done posture perfect. My father sat 1 row behind her. Lauren wasn't there. The judge entered a woman in her 60s with gray curls and rectangular glasses that made her look like she had never once missed a detail. Natalie stood. "Your Honor, we are here regarding a public act of physical assault committed during a family gathering. The incident was witnessed, recorded, and medically documented. We are not asking for compensation. We are asking for accountability." She handed over a flash drive. The judge nodded. The courtroom fell quiet as the video played. The footage wasn't cinematic, just clean. Dad's voice, my words. Then the slap, sudden, unmistakable. You could hear my breath catch, hear the scrape of my chair, hear my voice say, "I'll be filing charges." Then Natalie submitted the medical report, cheek bruising consistent with open palm impact, documented within 6 hours. A written statement from the waiter followed. My mother's attorney gray suit tired charm stood. This was a moment of familial tension, Your Honor. Emotion got the better of a devoted mother. We believe this can be handled privately, not through criminalization. The judge looked up slowly. "Mr. Baird," she said evenly, "the law does not cease to apply when the hand raised belongs to a parent." Nor do we excuse assault because the attacker raised the child. That is not discipline. That is damage. She turned to my mother. This court rules in favor of Ms. Grant. The defendant will pay a $2,000 fine, complete an 8-week anger management course, and maintain no contact with the plaintiff for 6 months. My mother's face didn't fall. It didn't even flinch. She simply nodded like she'd been told the weather might be rainy. When I exited the courtroom, the air outside felt thin. For a moment, I thought it was relief, but it wasn't. It was the absence of silence. Because for once, the story didn't skip over me. It stopped and said my name out loud. The court order hadn't even cooled before the next blow came. 3 days later, I got a call from my cousin Kaylee. We hadn't spoken in months. "Hey," she said, voice tentative. "Just wanted to check. Is the wedding still on?" I paused mid-step in the grocery store. "What? Of course it is. Why?" She cleared her throat. "Because Aunt Marlene sent an email. Said the wedding was canceled, that you and Nate were going through something." My stomach dropped. When I got home, I opened my inbox. Nothing. No sent message, no cancellation notice, nothing in drafts. But Kaylee forwarded me the email. Lauren sent it from a fake account pretending to be mine, claiming my wedding was canceled. It was sloppy but convincing enough to fool some people. I showed it to Nate. He didn't flinch, just read it, exhaled, and said, "This wasn't a mistake. It was built." I didn't respond. I just forwarded the email to Natalie. The next day, it got worse. Then Nate got a message from a blocked number with fake photos edited to make it look like I was with another man. The message read, "She doesn't deserve you." I wasn't shocked, but it broke my heart to know my sister could go this far. Nate stared at the screen for a long moment, then locked his phone. "You know what's sad?" he said. "They think this could work." That night, I hired someone to trace it, and it all pointed back to Lauren. There was no doubt anymore. Not in motive, not in method. But I didn't text Lauren. I didn't call my parents. I didn't post a status or send a warning. I didn't need more confrontation. I needed documentation. So I filed it. Every screenshot, every log, every trace. Because people who fight dirty depend on you getting emotional, and people who assume you'll stay quiet, they never expect a paper trail. Have you ever been betrayed by someone you trusted? How did you handle it? The morning of the wedding was clear, cool, and still. The garden venue sat behind an old farmhouse on the edge of town. Rows of white chairs curved around a handmade wooden arch. Nate built it himself. Lila helped paint the trim. There were no microphones, no floral towers, just lavender in mason jars and a quiet playlist from a Bluetooth speaker. I was upstairs getting ready when a knock came at the door. Lewis, one of the private security guards we'd hired, stepped in. Tall, calm sleeves rolled. "We've got someone at the side gate. Matches the photo you gave us." I didn't have to ask who. She had a backpack. Inside, 2 uncapped perfume bottles, a pair of scissors, and a can of spray paint. I looked at my reflection, the veil tucked low, a hand resting on my collarbone. Then I turned to Lewis. "No police. Just escort her off the property. Make sure she doesn't come back." He nodded once, then left. I sat for a moment, letting the silence settle. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel bitter. Just clear. 15 minutes later, I stepped onto the stone path, Lila's small hand in mine. She walked proudly, holding the rings in a velvet pouch. Her braid swayed with every step. Guests rose. I didn't scan the crowd for who wasn't there. I already knew. I looked at who was friends, neighbors, my boss from the hospital, Nate's students, people who didn't need convincing of who I was. And Nate, standing beneath the arch in a navy suit he'd worn once before to a funeral. He smiled like this was the only day that had ever mattered. When I reached him, he took my hand. "You okay?" he whispered. "I'm ready." The ceremony was short, simple, kind. There were no speeches, no readings. Just the two of us making vows. We wrote ourselves quiet promises we'd already begun living. I will meet you in exhaustion and in laughter. I will honor your strength without asking you to carry more. I will never ask you to disappear so I can shine. When it ended, Lila threw handfuls of dried petals down the aisle. Nate twirled her once and she giggled like it was magic. Later during cake and coffee under the trees, Uncle Ray handed me a small envelope. Inside was a card that read, "You chose dignity when you could have chosen spectacle. You chose peace when war would have been easier. Keep choosing it." I tucked the card into my vow book, not because I needed a reminder, but because I finally knew I didn't owe anyone a performance, just a life that felt like mine.